Good morning, class. This is Kim Sutton from Creative Mathematics in Arcata, California. And it's Tuesday, which means that we're looking at some games and activities that go with the literature book that I read yesterday. So if you have not heard this story, go to my YouTube channel and look up our channel, which is under Creative Mathematics. And you will see that so far I've read Even Steven and Odd Todd. Our book last week was Equal Schmequal. And this week we are using the book Double the Ducks. So that was a book about the concept of doubling numbers. And it was pretty basic because it basically only doubled the numbers 1 through 5. So we're going to extend this because we're going to look at some level 2 activities. So I want to begin with my famous pattern sticks. And if you don't have these at home, what you're looking at are the numbers that are multiples of 2. So we basically use this for skip counting. By multiples. We use it for doubling numbers, and we use it later on for multiplication. So this is called your 2-stick. If you remember your teacher using these sticks, or if you're new to this idea, the color red is the color of dot that is above each of the numbers on our class number line that are multiples of 2. So you will see a red dot above the 2, you'll see a red dot above the 4. And if you're not familiar with that concept, on my YouTube channel, you can watch a whole video about that number line. Here's the problem. We're at home. So if you don't have this stick nice and made up like this, you can easily write the numbers 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, and 24 on a piece of paper. You will see that I wrote them on my little chalkboard here. It's going to be the same activity. So I'm going to teach you a couple of games that can be played using your 2-stick. One important thing, and we never minimize this, which means that this is a super important idea. This tool can be used for practicing skip counting by multiples of 2. And I like to do this whether I say it out loud or say it in my head, a couple of different ways. So skip count with me. Here would be your basic way of doing it. Your finger points to the number and you say it. So we're just going to say 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24. Each time I do that, I realize that stick does not have any odd numbers on it. So if you're thinking about what we've done so far in our read-alouds, there's been a really important reason that we've done it. That was just your traditional skip counting. Another way to skip count when you think about multiples is that this represents 1 group of 2 is 2, 2 groups of 2 are 4, 3 groups of 2 are 6, 4 groups of 2 are 8, 5 groups of 2 are 10, 6 groups of 2 are 12, 7 groups of 2 are 14, 8 groups of 2 are 16, 9 groups of 2 are 18, 10 groups of 2 are 20, 11 groups of 2 are 22, and 12 groups of 2 are 24. So that's extending it a little bit because we're now thinking in groups of. If that is hard to say and do, simple way to practice that is to put your 1 stick over the top of your 2-stick. What you are doing is 1 group of 2 would be 2, 2 groups of 2 are 4, 3 groups of 2 are 6, and so on. So that becomes a tool for you if you're not as confident knowing those groups of. The third way we can practice skip counting by multiples of 2 is to realize that groups of means to multiply. So if I'm watching this and my teacher's already taught us to multiply, I simply would change how I skip count and say 1 group of 2 is 2. 2 groups of 2, oh, that's the way we did it before. So let's move up a notch. 1 times 2 is 2. 2 times 2 is 4. 3 times 2 is 6. 4 times 2 is 8. 5 times 2 is 10. 6 times 2 is 12. 7 times 2 is 14. 8 times 2 is 16. 9 times 2 equals 18. 10 times 2 equals 20. 11 times 2 equals 22. And 12 times 2 equals 24. Now I know all my times 2 facts. And I did that by skip counting first in a regular way, then doing groups of, and then knowing that groups of is the multiplication, or we say times. Here's the thing, I just practiced something very simple. Now, what if your family's watching something on TV and they don't want to hear you do that? Could you do it in your head? Absolutely. This is all your times 2 facts. So this is a pretty important set of numbers. Now I think I'm ready to play a game. And this game, I can use my double dice. If I don't have double dice, maybe my teacher had those in the classroom, but I didn't take them home with me, I can use 2 regular dice. I also need some chips or markers to play this game with. So really, really simple. You could use goldfish crackers. You could use anything you're able to find. You could use paper clips, but I'm going to use my transparent chips. Now, the object of the game, this is what makes it a level 2, is to be the first one to cover all the numbers on your 2 stick. When you take a turn, you are rolling 2 dice. You may either choose to add those 2 numbers together or do the difference between. So every time I roll, I'm deciding, do I want to add my numbers together or do I want to do the difference between? Whatever that total is, I'm going to say that many groups of 2. Why groups of 2? Because we're playing on our 2 stick. Later on, we'll learn that it wouldn't matter what stick you were playing on, you could play the same game. And this game is called the pattern stick game. The directions for this are on my website in the freebie section. So let me walk through some rolls. So I just rolled a 2 and a 1. I would say 2 plus 1 is 3. 3 doubled is 6. I would take a goldfish cracker or whatever I can find, a paper clip, and I would place it on the 6. I'm trying to be the first one to cover up all the numbers on my 2 stick. I rolled a 4 and a 2. Again, I would say 4 plus 2 equals 6. 6 doubled equals 12. Uh-oh, I rolled it again. Now, 3 and 3 is another combination that makes a 6. I already have that 12 covered up. So I could choose to use the difference between, but the problem is the difference between 3 and 3 is 0. 0 groups of 2 is 0, and there isn't even a 0, but I could put a chip on that little hole on my pattern stick. I rolled a 3 and a 2. I'm going to choose to do the difference between these two. So the difference between 3 and 2, if I make that a subtraction problem, and I could do it vertically or I could do it horizontally, the difference is 1. 1 group of 2, or 1 doubled, is 2. I hope you're noticing that I can play this with doubling, but I can also call it groups of 2 because doubling is the same thing as groups of 2. So I'm going to continue to play. I rolled a 3 and a 6. I'm going to decide to add those. Sum is 9. 9 doubled is 18. And I'm trying to beat my partner and cover up all the numbers on my double stick. Now remember, if you want to play the same game and practice multiplying by 2, what you're learning is doubling is the same thing as times 2. Again, if you don't have this stick, play it with the numbers written down. So whatever I roll, I decide to add or do the difference between, and then I would cross it out. So if I rolled that 6 and a 3 and I said it's 9, 9 doubled is 18, I cross that out. So I'm playing exactly the same game. I also want to take the level 1 game that I taught, which was called Double Up Draw, and change it with a little bit more of a challenge. So this game is played with a deck of cards. In our previous level 1, we turned over a card and we doubled it. But in this game, to make it a little more challenging, I'm going to turn over a card and another card. So I have to first practice adding those two numbers together. So 7 plus 2 is 9. Now I say 9 doubled is 18. If I want to play with a partner, my partner can turn over 2 cards. And if I use this as an 11, boy, this really gets challenging. I would say 11 plus 8, ooh, this is really tough, is 19. 19 doubled, ooh, man, I got to think about that. I could think about that as a 20 doubled, which would be 40. But 19 is 1 away, and I had 2 of those 19, so that's doubled would be 19 doubled would be 38. If that's too hard, I could use my face cards as 0. 0 plus 8 is 8. Doubled is 16. Now, the player with the highest double would take all 4 cards. So in essence, it's a challenge game like Dueling Facts that I taught previously. So I've shown you a couple of games that practice doubling. Watch the level 3 if you're up to the challenge, and we'll go a step further with doubling even bigger numbers. Remember, go to the YouTube channel and check out our videos. The channel is Creative Mathematics. Go to my website in the freebies section. Lots of things to download. So those were some level 1 games in the previous video. These are level 2. And then I'll put up my level 3s. Thanks for watching. I will see you next time. Bye-bye.